Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, and today I wanted to make a video about the story of the upcoming title, Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin. This game appears to be a reimagining of the first Final Fantasy game, this time set to action-oriented gameplay, and likely taking a few liberties with the story of the first game as well. However, all anyone can think about right now is the running joke. The main character just has this obsession with chaos. I have to kill chaos, 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 darkness, chaos. It's not like a Kingdom Hearts title from start to finish.
I'm here to kill chaos. Chaos, 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 chaos.
He himself states that it's kind of unexplainable, his desire to defeat chaos. He describes it as a hunger, a thirst. It's pretty much the only story beat that the primary protagonist, named Jack of all things, can even utter from his lips. It's a pretty off-putting thing when you see a brand new trailer, you can't wait to see the depth of character and fall in love with it from a Final Fantasy franchise title, and you just get this one note character that's just like chaos, chaos, chaos. But I actually feel like it speaks to how this game is going to be presenting its reimagined events from the first game of the franchise. So to understand the trailer, you must first understand the story of Final Fantasy I. As such, I'm about to spoil the entire game's plot, which may incidentally cause you to already understand the plot of Final Fantasy Origin, so I'll consider this a spoiler warning if you'd rather go in knowing as little about Final Fantasy I, or not having the idea of how Final Fantasy Origin is going to play out in your head, then you should probably click away from the video now. Now, on its surface, Final Fantasy I is a fairly simple story, one much like a lot of the other fantasy RPGs of its era, but it also showed that the shenanigans that we make fun of from the franchise nowadays were always pretty present in the franchise since the beginning. So at the start of Final Fantasy I, your mission is to defeat Garland, a once noble knight of the Kingdom of Cornelia who has kidnapped the princess and fled to the Temple of Fiends, also known as the Chaos Shrine or the Temple of Chaos, depending on which version you're playing. There, they defeat Garland and free the princess. This leads them on a journey to restore the 4 elemental crystals by defeating the 4 fiends, the Fiend of Earth, Lich, the Fiend of Fire, Merilith, the Fiend of Water, Kraken, and the Fiend of Wind, Tiamat. This is where things get very weird. By defeating the 4 fiends and restoring the 4 crystals, the Warriors of Light open a portal in the Temple of Fiends that sends them back in time 2,000 years. It is revealed that the 4 fiends that you fought were sent by Garland to the future after his hatred merged with the 4 elements of the world. Once in the present, the fiends would send Garland back 2,000 years right before you kill him at the start of the game. Once Garland was in the past, he would gather the energy of the elements and then send the fiends back to the future, and so on and so forth. This created a time loop in which Garland could never be killed. Not unless his true form, the Archfiend Chaos, was defeated in the past. They also needed to ensure they actually defeated the 4 fiends before they were sent forward in time as well. This leads to the player fighting all 4 fiends and Chaos in the final dungeon, before freeing the world from this time loop and stopping Garland once and for all. Though it is actually stated that Garland revives in the present day after all this, but it's at least assumed that maybe he's not trying to restore the time loop because the game is supposed to have a happy ending, I think. So yeah, that timey-wimey stuff in the Final Fantasy franchise, it's really been around since the beginning. So what does that have to do with Jack's obsession with chaos? Well, dialogue from the trailer implies that they might already be within Garland's time loop instead of the beginning of the game setting that event in motion. Now, for one, there is a prophecy that is stated that the Warriors of Light are going to defeat Chaos, and they're the Warriors of Light, and they're here to fulfill the prophecy. Now, prophecies are always kind of just, I guess, a plot tool. Sometimes they're used as a cliche way to explain how the hero characters become heroes or why they're heroes, and sometimes it's just honestly for the prophecy to end in shambles. But here, I think it's an indication that Garland has been manipulating events to ensure his time loop actually continues successfully. The heroes must confront Garland and defeat him in order for the loop to remain constant. It is likely he fled to the Chaos Shrine knowing that the Kingdom of Cornelia would send the Warriors of Light to follow and defeat Chaos in lieu of him never returning. This then leads into the fact that Jack just can't explain why he feels like he needs to destroy Chaos. What I suspect is happening here is that Jack has already experienced this time loop a number of times, and his subconscious is somewhat aware of what he has to do to continue it. Garland needs that bloodlust to ensure Jack and his companions come after him, so I'm guessing Jack is influenced by Chaos in some way to pursue its destruction, thus leading to Garland's demise and the preservation of the time loop. This then leads into one final line that I believe is largely open for debate. In the trailer, Garland states that he is to become Chaos. Technically, Garland should already be Chaos in this case. His past self that became the Archfiend is the one who sent the Four Fiends into the future and blah 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 time loop. However, his statement is also accurate in that after his defeat, he will be sent back in time where he absorbs the power of the crystals to become Chaos again, and then sends Sepine back to the future, blah blah blah. It is entirely possible this current day Garland is unaware of the loop and is simply trying to become Chaos through sheer force of will, but I think it's more likely that he is just as aware of the time loop or more aware of it than anyone else in this universe. Now, I know that just seems like a whole lot of a mess, and quite frankly, when you say it out loud, it kind of sounds that way. Whatever is going on, Kazushige Nojima, the lead of the story and the scenario for this game, seems to feel the story he wrote came so naturally after coming up with just one of the single lines we hear in the trailer. It's not a hope or a dream, it's a hunger, a thirst. He wanted to take that line and explain why the heroes are so obsessed with chaos, explain why it feels like they have no humanity and are only driven by this one desire. What are their hopes and dreams if not to defeat him? I can't help but feel like this time loop from the original Final Fantasy 1 helps explain most of that, and they can definitely make it fit in a darker setting like they appear to be trying to do here. So for me, this not only tells me that there's probably going to be a lot of the time shenanigans that we see in Final Fantasy 1, but when I was watching the trailer, I was wondering if the Chaos Shrine was going to be the whole game. I mean, it looks massive in the trailer, way bigger than it is in Final Fantasy 1, but I know how the scale of these games can be kind of more than it seems, I suppose. As for how the events of the game will actually play out, I do think what we're seeing in the trailer is the very first dungeon and scene. Because this is being made by Team Ninja, the people who made Nioh, I assume it will be mission structure based, where you'll go on a mission, complete a dungeon, defeat a boss, and then you'll unlock the new mission and so on and so forth. I think we'll largely be visiting a lot of the same places from Final Fantasy 1's universe through these methods. I think after we defeat Garland, we will go on an adventure to restore the four crystals and defeat the various Archfiends as bosses, and that we will be revisiting the temple and going back in time to deal with chaos. I think that beat for beat we'll see all the major Final Fantasy 1 story points, and that means there's going to be a lot of other characters we see. Matoya, of course, is one that I'm really hoping shows up somewhere in this game. It's also worth mentioning that the events already don't seem to be one for one from Final Fantasy 1. For example, Garland actually kidnaps the princess in Final Fantasy 1, and in the trailer, it looks like he just goes and never returns, and she actually has to ask the heroes to go and look for him because she admires him. So, again, there's definitely going to be some liberties taken here, but I can't shake the feeling that we're going to be seeing the timey-wimey stuff. But that's my theory. Let me know what you think is going on in the Final Fantasy Origin trailer, or is it just chaos? Thank you for watching this video. Be sure to like, favorite, subscribe, and share, and stay tuned. We'll be having more coverage on Origin as I'm able to release it. So thank you, and until next time, take care.